Dr. Ehrlich, when did the thought first come to you that perhaps our time as mankind on Earth was limited?
If I were to say that we are headed towards a population catastrophe, the kind that can wipe out entire countries, what comes to mind? The first thing is likely the narrative that the world is too populated and that we desperately need to reduce childbirths for the sake of the environment and the world's resources, so that we can maintain a sustainable, healthy rate of humans. And that is also the narrative of Dr. Paul Ehrlich when he wrote his book, The Population Bomb, all the way back in 1968.
Your main concern has been the population bomb, as you call it in your book.
The thing that's important to remember about population control is that if we want to avoid a tremendous rise in the death rate, we absolutely must have a tremendous decrease in the birth rate.
A decrease in the birth rate. That is exactly what has happened the world over. The problem that many bemoaned has reversed itself into the opposite. The worldwide trend now is that birth rates are falling dangerously low. There are very many countries now below the replacement rate. Countries like South Korea and Japan are far below the replacement rate and are already feeling the impact of that.
In Japan, the number of abandoned homes is at an all-time high. 9 million properties sit empty.
This is a country that is suffering with the phenomenon of lonely deaths. They've made human-sized dolls to replace people and just put them around the village.
In little more than a generation, the population has shrunk by nearly 90%, with 2/3 of the residents older than 65.
Japan is really suffering when it comes to urbanization.
What does it mean for the villages and cities in countries where more people die of old age than are born? If we want to see what happens when people just disappear, we can look at Detroit. Buildings and infrastructure quickly crumbles just within a few years when there are no taxes left for anything except whatever is deemed most critical. The trend now in our modern world is that couples in richer countries tend to just not have children anymore, even in places that have generous, seemingly pro-family policies like in Scandinavia. This means that more people are relying on social services that fewer people of working age have to pay taxes towards. In a world where fertility collapse has already begun, we haven't yet found a solution good enough to reverse the trend. In 100 years, will every city in the world perhaps be dominated solely by the elderly? Nothing we have tried so far has worked, with things like economic incentives or the state attempting to shift the culture towards more pronatalist ideas. They have only resulted in temporary improvements despite an accompanying hefty price tag. The cautionary words of Dr. Paul Ehrlich from half a decade ago appears bizarre for us from our modern perspective, at least for me, highlighting just how different things have changed in such a short amount of time.
There's a lot of pressure in our society now to reproduce. If you're single, people try and push you into getting married. You know, your wife, you have a bachelor over and your wife says, gee, shouldn't I have a nice girl over? The idea is, nobody should escape. So there's pressure to get married. Young couples, if they don't have children, people say, gee, they must be sterile. They never say, gee, maybe they like good wine and going to the theater and so on. They prefer that to scraping diapers. So there's pressure to have children.